Ever written a fantasy scene that just felt a little flat? Well, don't worry, because there's a simple way to fix it called the SLED method, and it's helped me improve probably hundreds of scenes across the 4 novels I've published so far. And having taught over 150 fantasy writers in my different classes and programs, I've had a lot of experience of using this SLED method to help fix other writers' scenes as well. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to use it to make any scene more exciting. Because ultimately, knowing how to write a great scene is the foundation of writing a great novel. And to start with, the S stands for make it more surprising. If every scene unfolds exactly how your reader expects, then you're not going to hold their attention for long. Sometimes you need a little bit of misdirection. A character who seems trustworthy but isn't. A plan that seems foolproof but backfires. A villain who turns out to be a false threat only for the real danger to be lurking elsewhere. Let me give you a practical example. I've just finished reading Golden Sun, the second book in Pierce Brown's Red Rising series, and Brown is excellent at these misdirects. To give an example with some minor spoilers ahead but nothing major, there is a scene where our protagonist is embarrassed at this high-stakes party. Going into that party, our protagonist Darrow carries a bomb that he's planning to detonate because Darrow is a spy trying to destabilize the nobility of this corrupted society. But after the embarrassment, and after realizing that he is too attached to some of the other nobles, Darrow leaves the party, and he feels very ashamed of his intent. Now, him leaving wasn't exactly surprising. When this scene was set up, I didn't really think he would actually blow himself up because we were earlier on in the book. But then there is another twist. Darrow goes back up to the party. He finds the noble who embarrassed him, who was previously a friend but is now a bitter rival, and this antagonist is renowned for his dueling skills. Darrow isn't. In fact, most people think he's an amateur who doesn't know how to use the razor, which is the main weapon of this world. So it is a huge shock when Darrow challenges this rival to a duel to the death. I hadn't seen that choice coming at all, and in terms of the payoff, well, I won't spoil it for you, but it is fantastic. Now, of course, it is worth noting that not every scene in your story has to be surprising, because if you try to write every scene in a way that radically twists your story, that can be exhausting in its own right. But if you've got a scene that feels a little flat and you're struggling to write it at the moment, just ask yourself, what is the most predictable way this scene could play out? Maybe it's the way you're currently writing it at the moment. And then consider, what if I do something else? So if you're currently writing a scene in your story, I really want you to try this exercise right now. Pause this video, jot down 3 to 4 different directions the scene could take, and see what happens. And by the way, once you understand the 6 elements of scene structure, you will find it much easier to twist each one. So you can check out this video over here where I break down those 6 elements of scene structure in more detail if you haven't already seen it. Now, surprise is just one element of an exciting scene. Like I said above, you can't always use it, but the next principle should be used in almost every scene you write. So the L of SLED stands for add in more layers. If your scene just exists to tell readers this is how the magic works, or this is some key historical information you need to know, it's probably going to fall flat. Single-purpose scenes bore readers. Why? Because when you're only doing one thing, it's much easier for the reader to sort of see through the artifice of what you're doing. You can almost imagine like a magician who is just doing a card trick, right? And there's no banter, there's no jokes, there's no fancy sequin suit, there's no glamorous assistant. It's probably going to be easy to see through that trick, right? Because all your focus is just going to the cards. But when you add those other layers in, you add in the comedy, the audience interaction, the props, it creates this sense of distraction and depth, and it makes the experience far more magical. Use this same magician principle in your scenes. For example, let's say you need to explain how sea monsters crawled out of the ocean and invaded a nation 3 centuries ago. Instead of just dumping a big exposition block on your reader, you could have a nervous scholar who's recounting this history during a high-stakes exam, and the very snooty examiners are probing his knowledge to see if he's worthy for admission to the university. You could maybe make it part of a heated argument between 2 nobles, one of whom maybe doesn't believe the history is real. Or lastly, you could perhaps have your mentor angrily remind your main character of the importance of his training. I don't care how tired you are, you have to be ready to defend this city when the sea monsters come back again. Do you know how many people they slaughtered? And so on. In all these examples, you are using exposition as ammunition. And this means that now you have so much more tension, character development, and a genuine reason for the reader to actually care. As a result, it becomes so much more fun for you to write and also for readers to read. So moving on to the E of our SLED method for making any scene more exciting, the E stands for expose new insight into your characters. You can have an incredibly interesting external plot, yet your scene might still be feeling flat. Well, why is that the case? It's probably because, despite the forward movement of your external plot, we are not learning anything new or seeing any fresh progression from your characters, aka the internal plot of your story. Now, not every scene needs to deliver an earth-shattering secret about your main character's true parents or your mentor's past as a legendary warrior. Of course, those could work. Most of the time, you can just look for little details to subtly enhance our understanding of who these characters are. For example, let's say you have a very hard-drinking, hard-swearing, hard-fighting mercenary who is this cutthroat killer with no trace of mercy and a very no-nonsense attitude towards life. But then, you're in a scene where this character is at a tavern with a couple of his friends, and they throw a few coins to the bard who is performing for them. "Play Lark's Breath for me," they call out. And then when they're walking out of the tavern afterwards, their friend asks, "Why did you waste your money on the bard?" "I spent a summer trying to learn the lute in my misbegotten childhood," the mercenary says, "trying to woo a fine lass, but it didn't take." So right there, you've revealed a new layer of depth to this character. And now your reader will be looking around and wondering, what other layers or what other details about this character have I missed? And if you want to build deeper, more interesting characters, I've actually created a free 5-day course that shares the best character development exercises I've learned from publishing my 4 novels and from working with over 150 fantasy writers in my classes over the last few years. You can get it for free by going to jedherne.com/5-day course or by clicking the link in the description down below. Over 2,600 writers have gone through it so far, and they've left amazing reviews, so I think you'll find it useful. Now, the last part of our sled process to make any scene more exciting is to make it more difficult. Stories thrive on struggle. If a character wants something, don't give it to them easily. And this applies to all kinds of conflict that you write in your story. So if you have a physical challenge, make them run out of arrows in the middle of battle, make the horse throw them off in the middle of a chase, make the cave collapse while they're still inside. In terms of social challenges, maybe your character wants to lie in a situation, but their childhood friend is in the room and they kind of know the truth that they're attempting to conceal. Maybe your character wants to bribe the guards, but they've just spent their last coins. Or perhaps your character wants to escape, but doing so will betray a promise they made to somebody else. And then in the realm of emotional challenges, perhaps your character wants revenge, but they realize that they still love the person they're supposed to kill. Maybe they want to confess their feelings, but they've spent years pretending not to care. And as a side note, I think this is why well-written magic systems usually have limitations, like a resource that can run out. And in this video up here, I actually talk about the 7 elements of great magic systems if you want to go into that in more detail. The thing is, when everything feels too easy in your story, the tension disappears. So next time your character is about to succeed, just stop and ask yourself, what is the worst possible thing that could go wrong for them right now? Of course, it's not enough to just do bad things to your characters. You have to get readers to care about them in the first place. And so again, I really recommend that you go through my free 5-day character development course because that is going to show you how to create compelling, captivating fantasy characters that readers fall in love with. Again, the link to that is in the description down below. Keep writing and keep striving, and I'll see you in the next video.